Hi, welcome to the Wonder Basement. My name is Tanya, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you a really cool card with the Artfully Composed Suite. By now, you've probably realized that my mouth and my voice is not going together. That is because I did the video, and at the end, I didn't have any sound. So we're just going to go with a voiceover, and yeah, we're just going to go with it. Okay, we're going to use the Artfully Composed Suite, and it's on page 32 and 33 of the January through July 2022 catalog. And there are many cute components. If you don't have a catalog, let me know, and I would be happy to send you one. We are going to be using some of the designer series paper and the stamp sets and the dies. And if you don't have a current annual catalog and you don't have a demonstrator, just let me know. It's a wonderful catalog to have for ideas, and of course the products are fantastic as well. Okay, so we are going to get started using this suite of papers, and everything about it I love. I love the tropical papers. I love the greenery and the sea glass embellishments. On this particular project, we are going to use some cardstock, stamps, and we are going to stamp a collage technique, which I think you'll really enjoy. Okay, the things you're going to need, the paper that you're going to need is a half a sheet of cardstock in pale papaya. This is one of our in colors that will be going out at the end of May. And then a quarter sheet of cardstock that is cut to 4.5 by 5.25, or 4.25 by 5.5. And then you're going to also use, I cut my sheet 12 by 12 piece of designer series paper 4.25 by 12, and then I cut out my 5.5 inch piece, and then these are the extra pieces that I have. We're going to use the skinny one and the wide one, and then we are going to have an extra piece. We're also going to use the frayed ribbon out of this suite, and it is so pretty. I love the feel of it. I love the way it looks. The texture is great, and it really frays well. Now what we're going to use is we're going to use the little leaves out of this die set, and then we're going to use this Edglit, and it's going to give you a pinking sheared edge along with a stitched edge, straight edge on the bottom of your card. I'm going to use this to actually make a unique card shape. So let me get the cut and emboss, and then we'll get started. We've got our cut and emboss machine, and we are going to put it down to as we would to cut with dies. So you have your cutting base and 2 cutting plates that you're going to put your card stock and your die in between and run it through. What I'm doing is I'm laying this Edglit so that it is kind of in a triangle form towards the bottom of the card, because I want to get an edge, and it's going to cut. I've got the card folded, so it's going to cut through both sides. You're not going to get a super clear cut on the back side, but it will have the pinking shears Edglit on it. So we're going to roll it through, and then the next thing we're going to do, see how that just cuts great. I just love that. So pretty. What we're going to do next is we're going to make what I call a handkerchief edge. So you're just going to line up the Edglit so that it's in a, it really isn't a hard and fast measurement. You just kind of want to make it so that it's pointed on the edge, and so that the decal edge kind of meets up to the other side. So you're going to run that through, and then you're going to see what this is kind of, I did it kind of on a lark, and I just thought it turned out really cute. So you've got a nice and pretty like stitched edge and decal, and see your back is, it's not as prominent stitched through on the back side, but it still looks really pretty. And so I'm just excited to, I hope you try this technique because it's really fun. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take these little leaves and we are going to punch out those on the top. This particular die set has, these are two little like they're cut embellishments. They don't really, no paper falls out. It's more texture, but the leaves then also leave, they actually cut out. So they're super pretty, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with them right here. Okay, first we have to open up the card so that we only want to cut this out on the top, on the front of the card. So I'm just going to open my card up, and then I really love the way Stampin' Up! Makes their dies, because once we run this through, you're going to see how I'm going to run it through a couple more times, and you're going to actually see how it just fits really nicely in this little triangle area of the card. Okay, so when I pull these out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have all these little pieces. Now, what I do is when I'm working with a particular grouping of stuff, I have a little tray or a little dish that I keep all of my extra pieces that I cut out in. So I'm not going to use these little leaves on this particular thing, but I may want to at some point. So that's what I do with those little things. And you can see how this fits just right up in the corner. You can kind of turn it all different directions to get it to fit up in there. But we're just going to cut this out 2 more times, and you're going to see how cute it is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some collage stamping on the front and back of the card base. Now, I was trying to decide what color to use, and I am going to use some of the evergreen, but in the beginning I'm going to go with the pale papaya, because when you stamp on a pale papaya cardstock and with the pale papaya ink, you're going to get a little bit of a watermark effect. So I am just going to start out, and sometimes when you're working with a large stamp, it's hard to kind of get started, but you just have to, especially with leaves, I like them to usually go towards the center of the card. So you can decide which it's easier to stamp, if it's open or shut. I know I do want it to be so that the back, it doesn't go upside down on the back side when you close it. So I eventually will just stamp the one side and then flip it over and stamp the other side. Okay, now it's time to decide for my next color. And what I'm doing here is basically going light to dark. I find that going light to dark is what I naturally tend to do. Um, Here I'm showing that the designer series paper is also collage. So just to show that collage stamping is, I mean, it's everywhere. And you'll see it when patterns are put together on fabric, and artwork, and on our designer series paper. So what I'm using here, so I've used a large stamp, and now I'm going to go in the same set. There is this script that is, it's unlegible. It's not legible. It doesn't really say anything. It just has letters, and then there's some pieces like where it goes out. But it's a really cool effect to put some script into your collage. So I'm showing the different ways you can stamp off. That's a full stamp. Then I stamp off again. And just to kind of get with each of our stamp sets, when you stamp ink once, you get one color. If you stamp again, you get a medium color. And if you stamp again, you get a light color. So it's really a good way to get a variety of colors or hues with one stamp pad or one color. So I'm utilizing that in this technique. Now, one of the things that you need to know is if you stamp off off the edge like I did there, and then you go to stamp it again, you're gonna get one side is gonna be lighter and one side is gonna be darker. So you need to if you're going off the edge, re-ink and then stamp off on a scrap before you stamp on your project again. Okay, I just flipped this over now and I'm going to do the same thing on the back. And you can kind of see what I mean about not wanting the back side to be upside down. Had I continued on stamping, then the letters and things would have been upside down. So that's why I flipped it over and just decided to go ahead and collage the back. You'll also notice that I'm leaving some white space, and where I'm stamping where I'm filling in white space, I'm doing it with a super light ink color, like probably this I stamp off to the third time. That's probably the lightest, because as you're collage stamping, you want to leave some white space so that you can, you know, fill it in with some of your other images. Now I'm going to pull out my Evening Evergreen, which is my darkest green, and I'm going to do a little bit of just a little bit of the script in the darker green, just to give it a little bit of richness. You can see as I go in with this darker color, I'm really it kind of almost becomes a solid in the background, and then a little bit with the leaves coming through as the watercolor or the watermark. And now I'm going to go back in with the large tropical stamp, and I'm going to stamp this full on color. So I'm going to ink it every time I go in to stamp, but I'm going to, and I want it to kind of be a little bit flowy, sort of, kind of like the wind is blowing the leaves. What we're going to do now is I've cut this piece of designer series paper, and I've cut it 4.5 by 4.25 by 5.5. And I am actually just going to ink the top of this piece of DSP, and I'm going to put it on the bottom or the inside of my card. And what this is going to do, it gives you a really cool way to display the designer series paper on the back and the front of your card. I just love being able to show both sides of the paper. Sometimes it kills me to cover or cut off a piece. So, and I really love the way the little leaves on the front, where I've cut them out at the bottom, come through with this DSP. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of those little pieces that I cut off of my 4.25 inch sheet of cardstock or DSP in the beginning, and I am going to flip it over, and it just so happens that this is a really pretty dotted background, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment on it because you can still see it. I love how it gives it a little bit of interest on your when you stamp a sentiment on the designer series paper. I'm going to use the Stampin' Dimensionals and stick those on the back to add my sentiment to the front of the card. And you can see how the dots on the DSP also just kind of work with the collage images in the background. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to add some of that really beautiful frayed ribbon to the card, and I've cut a piece that is about, it's probably about 12 inches long, and I'm just going to tie a soft knot in the top. This is such soft ribbon. It is so yummy to work with. Once I get the bow or the knot where I want it, I'm going to trim off these ends. And I love, love, love this ribbon. So on one end you can see where I've got a little bit of a frayed. I've started that edge fraying and it's so pretty. So I'm going to set that aside for another project. And then I'm just going to show you how I frayed it. You just basically get a hold of the string and just pull on it. Now the other end is a little bit trickier because that's where the knot is when you're pulling it out. So you have to kind of pull it out and then break it and then straighten it out and then pull it out again. But eventually it does fray pretty easily. I take and pop that thread with my scissors, and I cut that thread with my scissors, and then you can pull it out pretty easily. So as you can see, I'm kind of fiddling with it until I get it to where I want it. And I just fray the edges, kind of pull my knot down a little tighter, and get it kind of, the ribbon just kind of goes where you want it to go. So it's really pretty, and I love the edge on it. Now, the next thing that I wanted to do is that I think it needs a little bit of bling, because it's really pretty, but it just needs a little bit of sparkle. So I am going to go to my faceted gems, my gold faceted gems, and there are 3 different sizes. So I'm just going to pop those on either side of my greeting just to give it a little bit of sparkle. We do have the sea glass ribbon, or the sea glass embellishments, which are super cool, but I really wanted to go with gold on this one, and I think the sea glass might get lost on this particular color scheme. It's pretty bold. I started to put these on, and I'm just going to move them around a little bit. I didn't quite, they were a little too squished on the left side. So I'm just going to move these. A lot of the times you can move the embellishments once you put them down. I put everything on my card. I adhere it really lightly. I don't press it down until I'm sure I get it where I want it. So anyway, you can see what I did. I love that. And now I wanted to have a little space that you could sign a message on the inside. So I just flipped over another piece of that strip that I cut for the designer series paper, and I'm again going to flip it over. Really, these 2 patterns work so well together. And so now I have a nice place where I can write my name, sign a message, or do whatever. And there we have it. We've got 2 really cute birthday cards ready to go, using a collage technique and making a cute little handkerchief card base. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thanks for watching this video. Thanks for watching the Wonder Basement videos. I appreciate you stopping by and spending some time with me. Please click like and subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you check the bell so that you get notifications of new content when it's uploaded. I'll see you soon.